Today it's time for a best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. It's time for a Protoss versus Terran. But first off, in the bottom right hand corner, joined of course by the little polar bear, we have one of Europe's very best PvT players on the planet, but this time around, he's playing Terran yet again. We're looking inside of the main base of Clem. His opponent all the way in the upper left? This has to be upper left. I actually don't recognize the map. What is this? It's one of the new ones from the TOMC. I think it's Tato Citadel, I want to say? With the blue Protoss pieces. We have Hero. Was I right? I was right. Alright, so what's this? We're doing a proxy gateway in the most conservative position ever. Now, I guess luckily here for Hero, the odds of this being found are basically 0. I don't know if Clem is even going to be sending an SCV scout across the map, though. Doesn't look like it. He'll probably wait until the Reaper is out, and that does mean that, well, Hero is going to be able to get away with his shenanigans. What are you doing? Are we doing the don't build anything inside of your main base challenge? Sure, yeah. So we do one pylon here, one pylon there. What happens if you treat the entire map as your main base? Is this just Protoss arrogance, or is it an actual viable strategy? Cybercore goes over here. Gateway goes over there. Where do we add on any form of tech? Or do we just go for an extra gateway in this spot as well? I wouldn't mind it. Well, the Reaper is going to be coming out here in just a moment. I'm expecting a factory. Clem did go for the double gas indeed inside of the main, so he should be able to at the very least get a bunch of defensive units out. You may have already noticed, only mining 1 and 2 right now, so 3 workers in gas in total. It's just to get the extra gas going here and to get that factory out, together with the Reaper nice and early. Reaper is going to be able to get rid of the probe, but the probe, of course, is buying an insane amount of time, and would you look at that? Hero is also proxying the Stargate. I mean, at this point, he can only proxy. He's now finally adding a pylon in the main base, but up until this point, he really hasn't had much of another choice. Reaper is scouting, but it's scouting the, absolute wrong direction. It is going to go straight into the main. So that is a bit of a problematic possibility, I suppose, because there won't be anything inside of the main base to defend. We'll have to see how Hero decides to get rid of that Reaper. Yeah, apparently the Adept has decided to turn back around. Clem right now looking around, doesn't see much. Could be though that all of the tech is over here. Maybe it's over here on the low ground. There's still a lot of reasonable assumptions that Clem can make. Void Ray! It's a Void Ray proxy. No way, dude. Look, I've jokingly called Hero the highest ranked Diamond League player in the world. Maybe we have to knock it down a couple of leagues. Hero has now been promoted or demoted to the highest ranked Gold League player on the planet. As I'm casting this, there's about a dozen Gold League games going on where somebody is casting massing a Void Ray on the other side of the map. I think it's fine. Can we fight this? He did kill the Widow Mine. Yeah, more Marines popping out. Cyclone's going to be available too in just a moment. Dude, I love watching Hero games. What's happening? So we go Proxy Void Ray into Oracle into Void Ray yet again. I don't mind this right now for Clem. Clem has realized that something's a little fishy. Obviously, this is not as strong as it once was. But yeah, getting the Cyclone lock-on improvement is going to help out quite a bit with the base defense. Oracle, in the meantime, zapping at a bunch of those workers. I think the Cyclone is going to be able to finish the job. Indeed, the Oracle does die. Prismatic alignment activated prematurely. Hero made the beam thick a little bit too early there. Now, nothing to be too ashamed of. That happens to the best of them, but you do have to be a little cautious with all of this. And I'm starting to believe that Clem has got this defense done. What is this? There's a proxy nexus too. Maybe a hero is doing the thing that is absolutely unspeakable for most StarCraft players out there. Maybe, get this, maybe hero is playing video games for fun. I know. Pretty unheard of, and honestly a little bit embarrassing. Maybe even a little bit cringe. But it did not work if the goal was to obtain a victory. I don't know what we just watched. I don't even really know what the overall game plan was, but I kind of loved it. Can we do some more of that, hero? Actually, let me fix the scoreboard. This is most definitely... I had the scoreboard upside down there. This is most definitely not a one advantage for hero. He managed to get away with all of the proxies. I don't think Clem saw any of it until, well, all of the units were already produced. But then it still didn't work. Really? Okay. Yeah, sure. Sure. Clem has decided that now it's time to take matters into his own hands. I don't believe he ever saw the other side of the map in the previous game, other than with one Reaper. So, yeah, maybe change that up a little bit. Go for some cheese of your own. There is a probe scout, though, moving through the middle of the map right now, and hero will see the lack of, well, anything inside of the main base of the Terran. He's gonna see a supply depot, I suppose, but no surprise there. He's gonna see a gas geyser, and in a moment he will also see an orbital command start up if he decides to stick around for long enough, but I think this is all the info he truly needs. Now the question becomes, is this going to be Immortals? It's probably not going to be Immortals. Is it going to be Reapers, or is it going to be Marauders? Well, Reapers indeed will be his weapon of choice. Hero, by the way, not bothering walling off the location here on the high ground, or the wall, or right over there on the low ground. No, we're just building the structures inside of the main base. Not a lot of Protoss players like to do this anymore these days, but we've got ourselves the bunker coming up. And yeah, since we don't have quite enough gas, apparently a Marine will be added into the mix too. I'm guessing at this point, we're mostly settling just for a little bit of early game containment, but already no freaking way. Hero has decided to now proxy a pylon on the other side of the map. This is the natural expansion of Clem. What are we witnessing right now? This has become insanely cheesy. Hero has this effect on people, right? Stargate and a shield battery. We've seen Hero do this for years against the likes of Dark, where both of those dudes decided to just play the cheesiest and dirtiest games possible against each other for quite literally years on end. Insanely entertaining. Maybe this very odd relationship between Clem and Hero can also spiral in that direction. I wouldn't mind it. I see my cats do this all the time, dude. When one of the two wants to play, but the other one doesn't, and they have to figure out a way to get the other to become interested. So they just start, you know, gently biting his tail or just, you know, jumping around a little bit. That's basically what Hero is doing in all of these matches we've been seeing. It's a proxy void ray yet again. Are we ever going to make expansions? I think that Hero is just about to destroy Terran here. Am I wrong? It all comes down to the Cyclone, I suppose, but if you can get on top of this, and then as soon as the Cyclone spawns, you make the beam thick and kill it, I'm fairly sure that this is going to be impossible to hold. He's already made the beam thick just to try and kill the supply depot. There's the Cyclone popping out. I mean, it's nice and all, but this is going to be a heavy supply block right now on the side of the Terran, who obviously has had those barracks in the skies for a while already because he, well, proxied them on the other side. At the very least, the probe ended up going down, so we're not going to see shield batteries in the main base, but we are going to use this as a pylon to be reinforcing from. Cyclone is going to get hunted down. Are we going to expand behind this hero or nah? Nah, we have 3 gateways. This is actually 3 gateways and then also a proxy Stargate, so He is building a little bit of everything. Cyclones really are going to be the key to this defense. And maybe Clem can get another one out, but it's not going to be enough to get rid of these Protoss units. And that means that this series comes down to White Rabbit. Final map in this best of 3. Now, are we going to be sending any workers across the map? Hero? Clem? No. No, we're not. Pylon inside of the main base. Supply depot inside of the main base. I mean, we could still rally. I feel like in a series like this, game number 3 is either going to be completely standard, or it's both guys flinging mud at each other, you know? Like, you might end up in a situation, and we've seen this time and time again, when game number 1 is cheesy for one player, and then game number 2 is cheesy for the other, that game number 3 is going to be cheesy for both. I guess Hero already sort of displayed that in the previous run, right? Not a lot of people would be fighting Proxy Barracks with a Proxy Stargate. Worked out perfectly for him, though, but maybe we're even going to see expansions this time around. Maybe. Possibly. There's a chance. Maybe we're even going to see one really early here. Hero, though, not entirely sure. He is checking behind his Naturals mineral line to make sure that there's nothing too fishy out here. We're doing a little bit of a probe mating call before ultimately, well, building a Nexus. Look at this. So this, for my newer viewers, is called an expansion. The idea is that you make additional workers so you can harvest the resources over here, which you can then go ahead and use to build a bigger army. I know, we haven't seen it yet in these games, but it is generally speaking a very important part of StarCraft 2. I know, you're welcome. I bet you nobody knew that yet. Nexus is going to be followed as well by a command center on the low ground. Look at that. Unheard of. Unseen. I really do appreciate it, by the way, that Clem has yet again enabled the Polar Bear. There were like 1 or 2 series that I did cast where the Polar Bear, weirdly enough, disappeared. I'd like to think that it wasn't, you know, just the outrage of the Loco community that put it back on. But it has since returned. Very important. All right, let's see. Stalker's going to be popping out here in just a moment. Twilight Council coming up for Hero, so this should probably just be good old Blink. Oh. Hero canceled the Twilight Council and then swapped it out for a Stargate. So we did we did 3 Stargates. 3 Stargates in 3 games is weird. This has to be an Oracle. Or maybe Phoenixes? There's no way it's going to be Void Rays again, right? I mean, Void Rays were pretty good in that second game. I think in general, Void Rays are a questionable unit. Oh, a little ring around the Rosie. Or ring around the bunker, I should say. Starport's going to be done here in just a sec. Yeah, it's going to be Phoenixes. Okay. So usually Phoenixes get followed by either Colossi or Charge Slots. I think with the new patch, that's now maybe 2-3 weeks old or so. I think with the new patch, it's more likely you're going to see Twilight into Charge, into Templar Archives, into Storm. That just makes more sense to me, but we've already seen that Hero in this particular matchup is one of the very few Protoss players who seems to not be that big of a fan of Psystorm. There was a lot of debate when the patch was first announced whether or not the changes to Storm were a nerf or a buff. And it seems like most players out there consider it a buff, but Hero may be in the camp where he considers it a nerf. And honestly, Phoenixes are a really nice way of transitioning into a Robo facility too. Just going to be gateways for now, though, so I would imagine Twilight Council here in just a sec, but only time will tell. So Clem is anticipating triple, maybe quadruple gateway blink. That is what he is putting his opponent on right now. Because of it, you can expect a third Nexus. Third Nexus is still going to be planted. And Jimmy here will scout out the timing of it. I don't think this is really going to give him that much info, but at the very least he knows that it's likely not going to be 4-gate blink. Because with 4-gate blink, you wouldn't be able to build the Nexus here already. We have a probe trying to figure out Wonderworld just, well, spawned right there on the minimap. Banshee is flying around. Twilight Council should be straight into charge. And then I would imagine straight into... There it is. Straight into Storm as well. It just makes so much sense. But again... Hero not necessarily the biggest fan of the Storm research. Now, though, he reveals the Phoenixes. Trying to move them around. Banshee in the meantime, though. Even though the Hyperflight Rotors upgrade has been very popular as of late. Yep, this is putting in a ton of work. There's no easy detection available here for Hero. Which is very problematic. His best way now to get detection is through an Oracle. So the Oracle started up after the Banshee already started murdering the mineral line. It obviously has a spell called Revelation. But the worker losses are gigantic. Clem at this point kind of regretting he only made one of these. Yeah, you don't even need the Oracle anymore. Energy ran out, so the cloaking could no longer be maintained. Third Command Center is going to start up right now to celebrate. And this was... Oh, you did actually make a second Banshee. I didn't even realize the first one already died. This was certainly very committed. Now, Hero, of course, is still going to be able to finish up the charge. So that's a big upgrade. If you can lift off the siege tanks, maybe take the Cyclone out of the equation too, these charge slots can actually put in a lot of work. And even though the Oracle is made mostly as a way to provide detection, it can still put in an awful lot of work. Honestly, the charge slots alone are putting in some damage. Yeah, we're going to be lifting Marines instead, picking them off one at a time. Stasis Ward also does go down. I quite like that. Cyclone. Siege Tank in the back of the main base. I think there's not enough energy anymore for another lift. But this has been a nice little attack here from Hero, who's following this up with a few more Zealots. Getting the Mules here would actually be quite big too. Hold position right now on the SCVs to mess up with some of the unit AI. Ooh, Widowmine does snatch the low HP kill. The low HP Phoenix, that is. Bunch of Medivacs are going down. I mean, an eye for an eye to say the least. Hero absolutely loves chaos. So he lost 15 workers, but he took down 28 in the process too. And now suddenly, we are back to wrestling in the mud. +1 flyer upgrade starts up. That's crazy. +1 air weapons? What are we gonna follow this up with, Hero? This is a low eco game. +1 air is, I mean, not the most expensive upgrade. It's 100 minerals, 100 gas. But for Phoenixes alone, it seems a little weird. Usually Phoenixes fall off the longer that the game goes on. Fleet Beacon is 300, 200, so I don't think we're gonna be going into that. It's just too expensive. Yeah, I think we're just gonna keep on pumping out Phoenixes. But Phoenixes don't really need the +1 attack, do they? It's nice, but... Nice little bit of harassment here, actually. Yeah, Hero really thrives in chaos. Certainly the most flexible Protoss player out there. Every morning when Hero wakes up, he does 30 minutes of Protoss yoga, whatever that means. But the other Protoss players at this level, they are generally quite rigid, right? They're, yeah, treating the game like a spreadsheet. And while they're very good when it's moving along a path that they have explored many times before, Hero's certainly the best when it comes to playing these wild and wacky matches. I'm still a little bit concerned, though, because I don't know if Phoenixes are really the best choice. Especially if you have little pockets of mines set up just to try and get a lucky set of kills. Well, this is exactly what Clem was trying to avoid. Oof, oof, oof. 4 Widow Mines. Could have had the Medivac there too, the low HP one. There's the air weapons level 1 finishing up. Phoenix production is going to continue. No Storm, by the way. So rather than Storm, we're going +1 air. Third Command Center was built. Yep, Clem is going to be flying that one down towards the low ground. Eco-wise, he is slowly rebuilding it. Hero's economy is decent, but nothing to really write home about. But the zealot numbers are insane. 22 zealots. There's about as many zealots now as there are marines. If Clem engages over here, I think it's GG. And he probably just came to the same conclusion. Maybe he had a glimpse of the amount of zealots that there were. He decides to back off. Now Hero decides to go out on the map to try and chase him down. And he is going to be able to get the engagement that he's looking for. Through that line of sight blocker. Clem could not see it. And now suddenly the flood of the zealots have a... Oh my god. Dude, Hero, what in the world is this abomination of a strategy? And why is it working? Can't really keep chasing though through the Widow Mines. Yeah, the Widow Mines are really Clem's saving grace. A lot of splash damage in a relatively cheap unit. And I don't know if Protoss knows of the base. No, Hero could have gone down to that direction and potentially sliced up a mineral line and a half. But he didn't know. He's going to find out about it right now. Obviously, these maps are still very new. And I think he now realizes, oh crap, I could have actually doubled down on the aggression. Well, onwards and upwards. No missile turret inside of the main base's mineral line. He's hunting for units though. And would you look at that? Psystorm on the production tab. Psystorm and Zealots. Honestly, these Phoenixes are insanely good. They've really been very cost effective. 10 of them have died, which is kind of expensive, but... What about the Zealots? It all depends on the Widow Mine hits. He's just here to cancel the bunker, don't you worry about it. Double armory for Clem. Double armory and then also double NG bay. What is this? Triple NG bay in total? Triple NG bay and then double armory? Clem, we're not that rich. It's gotta be a misplay. But he made them like 5 seconds after one another. It's a little bit weird. More and more packs of zealots are hunting the map. High Templar are out. And what was looking like a Terran win, and then was looking like a Protoss win, has now turned into a macro game. Clem securing the 4th base. The zealot numbers are too big. I think we are past the point where zealots are actually going to be a cost-effective unit. They were good when the Terran was stuck on mostly Marines, but now it's going to be mostly Widow Mines and a lot of Marauders in the mix. Liberators obviously are coming out as well, and I think Hero is realizing that he needs to get something done with those units sooner rather than later. But Clem is doing a great job locking off his expansions. There's, by the way, the Fleet Beacon coming up. Fleet Beacon together with a 2nd Stargate. So Hero is making a transition to Skytos, hoping that like this aggression that he's been displaying the entire time is gonna make the Terran player feel like they cannot move out. There's a storm. Good snipes. A hallucinated Colossus. Clem realizes it right now, just looking at the amount of damage that he's dealt to it. And I think if he puts 1 and 1 together, Clem realizes now that he can go for a push. He doesn't necessarily need to, but Hero is very vulnerable. Like, he's making himself appear like he's very strong right now, but he really isn't. Tempest production has begun. His economy, though, is big, so 86 workers is really nice. Even a mama ship is going to be joining the battlefield. Okay, sure. Phoenixes from the early game still are running around. +1 air weapons coming up for Clem using one of those 2 armories that he made. Oh, Widow Mines. Oh. Planetary Fortress, though, is going to be real sweet. EMP is decent. Storm is pretty good as well. Storm, of course, now a very good zoning tool. Clem having a grand old time, though, sniping the High Templar. And while Terran is going for a tried and true, like a tried and tested late game strategy, Hero is doing something that's much more unorthodox. And while his eco is very good, I'm not so sure that his unit composition is as well. This is a weird combination of troops. Maybe it can work out. But I think Clem is approaching this a little bit better across the board. Clem obviously also somebody who plays a lot of Protoss versus Terran himself. Scanning the main base right now reveals the Skytol's transition. Yep, and immediately he uses this now as an opportunity to go across. He makes another armory. Alright, sure, that's really what we needed. A third engineering bay, and also a third armory. That's, yeah, that's exactly what we, yeah. Alright, extra starports, though, are going to be useful. Because I think what we really need here is Vikings. What we also need, though, is a mass repair on the planetary fortress, which didn't start. So instead, the bases are going to go down. That's one command center down the drain, but there's another Nexus now also paying the price on the other side. Then again, though, can Terran really go home with these units? The Tempest numbers are big. Time warp to maybe cut off the retreat? Okay. Cute player from Clem, cute attempt. But he does get a lot of his units, ooh, sliced in half. Looks like there was a little bit of a pause in the game. Both players, though, have managed to get their hands back on the keyboard yet again. And Hero may very well be making this weird unit composition of his work. It's basically Tempest and High Templar, and then a whole load of Zealots to supplement the leftover supply. EMPs, though, are juicy. That's good work right there by Clem. Gets a bunch of Archons in the mix because of it. The scans here are also still giving him the revelation that he needs on those Tempests. An absolute bloodbath here. The Marauder count is high. What we really need is way more Vikings. Yeah, I say that. Marines are getting underneath the Mama ship itself. Keep in mind that with the latest patch, the mothership's movement speed has been reduced. And Hero really not getting a lot of value out of Storm so far. Surprisingly enough, because I feel like across the board, the changes to Storm really are a buff. Every other Protoss player under the sun at this level seems to love the new Storm. But Hero not really getting a lot of value. Orbital Command is being morphed in over here. More Zealots are dying, but so are the SCVs. That's 7 added to the total now of 62. 62 SCVs have died throughout this game. There's plenty of Tempest available. The weird part about this many Tempests is that you don't really want to, like, target fire anything anymore. EMP is good. It's a very ghost-heavy army, by the way. It's basically Ghosts and Vikings now, which is also an odd one, but I quite like it. Those Ghost auto attacks are not to be underestimated. Like, for a spellcaster, their auto attacks are insanely good. Ghosts, of course, now 2 supply again. Down from 3. They used to be 2 for many, many years, and then they turned to a 3 supply unit. Well, about a year or so ago. Now they're back down to 2. You can tell that this Terran army still has a lot of supply available. Like on the previous patch, this Terran army would be 13 supply heavier. It's a little bit deceiving, right? The supply count alone. Because if you look at that only, you would imagine the Terran advantage is there, but not that significant. It's actually quite a bit bigger than I think it should be. So in this matchup, the main difference here is that the Colossus would now deal more damage to the Ghosts. So Ghosts are now light, meaning that they take bonus damage from units that deal bonus damage to light. But none of the units here that Hero is playing with really have that as an option. So it makes the whole matchup here a little bit lopsided. And across the board, those Ghosts are just way more powerful now. Since the Tempests are forcing out a ton of Viking production, there's not really an option here for Hero to make any Colossi. So even though this is a weird strategy and a weird unit composition from Clem, it does make sense when you think about it. The ecos are still big, but I think Clem is going to try and see if he can get rid of some of these outer bases. Location here, very nice, of course. Zealots going down the meat grinder. The static defense, though, in those photon cannons, and then also the shield battery really helping out. This is one of the things that Ghosts are kind of bad at. Not very strong when it comes to sniping structures. That's where the Marines and the Marauders usually shine. Yeah. And Hero has just now plummeted. His supply count is far lower than what it was a little while ago, and it's now also reflected in the resources lost. So many more minerals, quite a significant portion of gas as well. Lost more on the side of the Protoss. Clem going into the +3 infantry attacks, which feels very late actually. Should have had that a while ago, but this game has been messy. With 3 starports out, and with Vikings already made to counter Tempests, I don't believe that Hero can really make any transition to anything else. He is flat broke. And now with Marauders joining in the fray yet again, the structures are going to go down way quicker too. Clemdo taking this, yeah, easy, right? He's not really in a rush. Obviously, we have full vision of the game, and it's very apparent that the Terran army is much bigger. But Hero is always very good at selling his army for a lot more than what it's actually worth. Fusion Core coming up. Gonna be for Liberator ranged, for Medevac energy. This is a fight, though, that I think Clem can be very happy about. He's winning it with like half of his units present. EMP yet again on most of the High Templar. Vikings are move commanded over the Archons. Probably not optimal there. Maybe now the option to go into Colossi is once more present, but the problem now becomes just the sheer amount of stuff. I mean, if Clem decides to attack, the numbers are not lying. He just has significantly more supply, and he's coming into this particular fight here as well from multiple angles. Not enough energy right there for a storm, so he decides to go for the feedback instead. And I believe that this base is as good as gone. GG gets cold. And ultimately, it is Clem here who obtains the victory in a very fun series of Terran versus Protoss. Game number 1 and 2, very, very cheesy. Game number 3, a little different than what we normally see, but Clem still shows us that he is an absolute beast when it comes to playing these wild and wacky games as well.